Well, welcome back into the Electric Lounge of Oral Ecstasy. It's been a few years since I put anything new up, and I'm sorry. I ended up going back to school and then getting a very demanding job, and life's been busy. So we got a lot to catch up on, because I believe the last time that we spoke, I would have been listening to Bill Bruford. Well, since then, I've listened to all of this.
And this, and this, and...
Wait a minute, before we go any further, let's put on a record. We're going to listen to Intrigue, which is a box set curated by Steven Wilson. This is, it's not really part of where I am currently, but it's a compilation, so I feel okay with it. So let's get back onto this, and I'll tell you where I am. Crappy record player, sorry I moved. So where was I? Oh, yes. I've listened to all of
this, and this, and this, and this, and all of this, and this, and this, and...
That's where I am right now. Just finished Metal Church. So where do I even start? I guess back with Bill Bruford, right? And let's go through some of the B's. I mean, I've finished all of the B's through the M's. That's a lot of music, and probably about, 3 years worth of stuff. So let's just go through the rest of the B's and discuss what I've missed so far, because there's just a lot. All right, let's go through the B's. Next up was Roy Buchanan, guitarist. Quite good, blues guitar. I got 3 of his, Loading Zone and a second album. Then we get into some Buckingham Nicks. Now, this particular one is the demos. This is before their actual album here, which is this guy, the Buckingham Nicks album, they were recording this album in the studio next to Fleetwood Mac in Burbank. You can check that out on Studio City, the documentary by Dave Grohl. And that's how they met the rest of Fleetwood Mac, and the rest is, as they say, history. So, next up, Lindsey Buckingham. This album's okay. I mean, it's got its moments, but it's also a bit cheesy. After that, I get into one of my personal favorites, Mr. Jeff Buckley. Now, this man only put out one actual album in his time, but he was just such a phenomenal talent. His father, Tim Buckley, which I have more of over here, was a 60s folk rock guy, kind of psychedelic type stuff. And Jeff was quite an anomaly, because he was somewhere between acoustic stuff, and one of his earliest attempts at doing something was with a guy named Gary Lucas, who used to be with the Captain Beefheart Magic Band, but his influences were from like Nina Simone and Leonard Cohen to like Slayer, you know what I mean? So there was a little bit of everything in between, and I've collected as much as I can by him on vinyl. This one being a 92 broadcast, this one show from 92 also at East Orange, and then one Cleveland 95. Another one here, I think this is a Record Store Today one, yep, in transition. And then we get into this guy, You and I, more tracks released from, this is studio sessions from before he actually did his album, Grace, which is the one and only actual album he released before he was tragically cut short by being pulled under by a barge in the Mississippi River upon recording his second album, or beginning to record it. Here's another one, live at KCRW. And finally, this one, the live album that he released. This is a great album. This has a cover on it of a song called What Will You Say? Now, this song, I don't remember who wrote it, but it's about a child talking to a parent that they had never met. Jeff barely knew his father, Tim, so it comes across as something he would write to him, and it's just beautiful, just heart-wrenching, Here's Gary, this is the guy that he originally wrote with. So 2 or 3 of the songs that ended up on Grace, specifically Mojo Pin and Grace, the 2 tunes, were written originally with Gary. This is a little different. They're basically the same as the original song, but a little more experimental, I guess. Then we get into his dad, Tim Buckley, and a few by him. Look at the Fool, The Blue Afternoon, Happy Sad. You can see the resemblance, and vocally speaking, you can hear the resemblance between these two as well. They both have quite large registers, but Tim, his voice was Beautiful and great, but nothing like his sons. This one's pretty cool, Live at the Troubadour. Another good old record store day release. After Buckley, we get into Budgie, which I have quite a bit of, but mostly on CD. This, their album In For The Kill. These guys were a three-piece from Wales. Kind of similar to Rush, but a little more blues-based, not quite as prog. A little just different. Here's the best of Budgie. I don't even know where I got this one, because I don't typically buy greatest hits. But anyways, Buffalo Springfield, one of the original supergroups before it became a supergroup, right? Because obviously Neil Young and Stephen Stills went on to do huge things. Richie went on to Poco. Jim Messina went on to Loggins and Messina. But these guys were 60s royalty, right? Look at those guys. Obviously everybody knows the song For What It's Worth. Here, this just came out this most recent record store day, the Black Friday one, live at Monterey International Pop Festival, along with the Byrds, which we'll get into them in a minute too. But two great sets. David Crosby sits in with Buffalo Springfield also, so that's kind of fun. Next up, we got the wonderful Jimmy Buffett, rest in peace. You guys know who Jimmy Buffett is, and if you don't know who Jimmy Buffett is, well, all I could say is Margaritaville. Look it up, and you'll know everything you need to know about Jimmy Buffett. Bullet. This is, I mean, come on. What do I really need to say about this album? Look at these guys. Cheesy, wannabe, 80s, kind of popish metal. I honestly don't even remember listening to this that well. It's that memorable. So this one, though, the BulletBoys, love this album. Don't know if they did anything else. I assume they probably did, but I really liked this album quite a bit. Smooth Up In Ya was the main song, and then what was the other one? For the Love of Money. Good stuff. Fun. Next up, we got Wilburn Burchette and the Occult Concert. This is crazy. I don't know what instrument this is that this guy's playing. It's something between, like, I don't even know, like a guitar and a sitar, but this is a pretty cool, experimental, folk-ish, but with more pizzazz. Let's take a little listen, shall we? And then we move on to Burning Spear, which is, of course, a reggae band. I am not a huge reggae fan. I do love Bob Marley, and I like some Peter Tosh and stuff, but some of it gets a little bit too... I don't know the word for it. I guess just the beat just drones on into the dub stuff. I'm just not into it, but this is an okay album. It's a little 80s, a little, you know, a little dated, but that's okay. Next up, the Butthole Surfers. First, our 83 demos. These guys are just straight up, you know, rock, metal, experimental weirdness, and I love them. Got a bunch of Butthole Surfers albums. And recently, I got...
Hold on a second. You got a cigarette? No. Carry on.
Which I do have on CD, but I've decided to get them on record because even though I constantly say I'm not going to buy stuff that I have on CD on vinyl, I lose that bet. Yes, it's only with myself, but I still lose it on a regular basis. After the Butthole Surfers, the wonderful Buzzcocks, 70s style punk rock. I love this band. The first wave of punk was so much different than what became known as punk, right? Because you've got the original wave with, you know, the Buzzcocks, the Ramones, Talking Heads, and Blondie, and, you know, Sex Pistols and whatnot. You know, obviously it goes on from there into the pop-punk years, but Buzzcocks in the first wave, these guys were, God, they're such a good band. You'd have to listen to it, but here's a great place to start if you want. More product in a different compilation. This is a 2 LP set on orange vinyl. Another record store day release, 2016. Wow, that's been a while, huh? And then this guy, Something's Gone Wrong Again. The Buzzcock covers a bunch of bands. Not a lot that I know. Yeah. Naked Ray Gun, Alice Donut. I don't know a lot of these other bands, but this is a cool version of some of their songs, though. Done Justified. Speaking of weird, this one, the American Metaphysical Circus. This is Joe Byrd and the Field Hippies. This is a bizarre album. I think it came out in the late 60s, early 70s. It's kind of, yeah, 69, somewhere between. Let's take a little listen.
The things that sit and wait for you to stumble in the dark will take the cobwebs from your eyes and plant them in your heart.
Yeah, weird stuff, but good, very good stuff. Moving on, the Byrds. As I said, we were going to get there. Tambourine Man, of course, one of their biggest hits. Byrds did a lot of cover songs, also did some really great original songs. Their main writer, Roger McGuinn, great writer. Of course, this is where David Crosby got his start as well. Got a nice little grip of these. This particular one has an amazing 18-minute version of 8 Miles High, which I absolutely love. Here's another live one, Washington 71. Byrd Matrix, and finally live one here. And then we get into the last of the B's, which is David Byrne. So this one was Byrne and Eno. So this is a bizarre album, man. Like, it's, I mean, Eno's coming out of, you know, Roxy Music, Byrne's in Talking Heads at this point, and there's just some weird shit going on here. Some of it's a little much, but most of it's a pretty great listen. This one, music for a movie, as is this one, the Catherine Wheel, which I'm pretty sure that's where they got their name as well, I would assume. And then finally, this album, Real Momo. And that is the rest of my B's. Maybe we'll take a little break here and then come back with the C's and see how many I can get through tonight. I'll see myself out. Oh, wait, almost forgot Oteil Burbridge and lovely view of heaven. This is a tribute album to all these dead songs written by Jerry and Robert Hunter. Look at that lineup. A truly beautiful tribute to beautiful songs by this guy. Now I'm actually out of here. Later. Miss you, Jerry.